deep. You're Ken Kell. You're the hockey guy. I go, I don't know anything about this guy.
This is The Conversation Line, presented by Fieger Law.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Conversation Line brought to you by Fieger Law. And I think we have the most special guest that we've had on the podcast so far. John Keating today, a familiar face on your Red Wings broadcasts. John, we know that you're retiring at the end of the Red Wings season, and I think everyone's been just appreciating all the work you do all season long. Has it hit you yet that this is going to be your last one?
It did on Friday. I mean, as you know, that was a full day with working in the Tigers opening day and then coming across the street and being surprised by a very nice tribute. And so driving home, that hit me. And I've got one more home game left. We're, as you know, we're all hoping that there's playoff games in our future. And so we would have first round of the playoffs if that's the case. So I'm hopeful that we can make a push and extend games beyond the regular season.
You mentioned Friday. Obviously, you did opening day, and then you went over to the Wings side, and they had such a nice little tribute planned for you. Were you truly surprised that your family was there?
I was. My family, God bless them, are terrific liars, and I should know that by now, having watched them grow up. And so I was given indication that let us know how it goes. And maybe a week and a half before, I had some suspicion at the back of my head, but that went away as, everybody was talking about what was going on with their lives. I mean, we've got people in Detroit and on the West Side and Chicago coming in, and it was all very nice. And I can't thank the Red Wings and Mickey Redmond and my family enough for making all that happen.
Well, you keep making appearances on the Tigers broadcast this year, too. Most recently was you catching a fish in Seattle. How many years ago was that?
Oh, that had to be 10, 12 years ago. And the guys in the Pike Place Market are always great about playing along. They like being on TV. And so it's always been kind of fun to do that and to catch a salmon. And then you're reminded about it. Not just from people that you run into, but the smell that doesn't seem to go away for a couple of days.
John, I think I've told you this story, but it stands out to me. Obviously, you've been a fixture for me growing up watching Detroit sports. And I remember when I started with the Red Wings, which was 7-8 years ago now, I saw you in the media meal room. And I was so nervous to come talk to you. I was really nervous to come say hi to you. And I was so nervous that I called you Mickey instead of John. Dan Dickerson's in the booth with me right now, absolutely laughing at me. And I knew you weren't Mickey Redmond, but I think my brain went Mickey York. And I don't know which you would rather, but I will never forget it.
Yeah, and you're not alone in that regard. I get it from people all the time. And if Dan Dickerson is listening, he can appreciate this story. I was getting out of the cab at Fenway Park and, walking into to work the Tigers Red Sox game. And somebody stopped me and asked for an autograph. And I said, sure, but who do you think I am? And they thought I was Al Kaline.
Oh, that's a good one.
and Al at the time was still alive, but Al at the time was, 78, 79, something like that. And I was considerably less than that. And so I kind of chuckled, but I've been called Ken and, because people see somebody that they have seen occasionally on television and it doesn't click instantly to put the name with the face. And so I've been called lots of things over the years. Not all of them I will admit to liking on our little podcast visit here.
So you've had a very long career with some epic Detroit sports moments, but before you were here in Detroit, you were building your career elsewhere. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that before you became the Detroit sportscaster that you are?
Sure. So I went to Grand Valley State, a little tiny 10-watt radio station. And then I started working in Grand Rapids radio. And I was the morning news guy, but knew I loved sports, and then started doing weekend sports at the ABC station, WZZM in Grand Rapids, and was there for 5 years, and then got a chance to go to Denver in 1985. So yeah, it was that long ago. And was there for the John Elway years, and the Broncos were huge, and the Rockies were born, and all that kind of stuff. And then the Avalanche arrived from Quebec, and won the Stanley Cup in 1996. And so I was doing stuff around the broadcast. I wasn't working for the CBS station anymore, but I had sort of transitioned and was doing some freelance things for the Avs at the time. And so when I left there and came to Detroit in the November of 96, they were, and I was working for Pass at the time, which was the precursor to Sports Detroit, and then Bally, and then FanDuel. They took me around the Red Wings dressing room, and everybody knows that Chris Draper is a very friendly guy. And Drapes asked me, who had the famous run-ins with Claude Lemieux, where you moving from? He said, just being folksy. And I said, I can't tell you, because I knew that it wouldn't be well regarded that this guy was coming from Colorado, having worked with the Avs to some degree, into the Red Wings dressing room at that point. But we laughed about it soon thereafter, and he's always been terrific. So
what was your perspective of that rivalry and fight night at the Joe? What's your memory of that?
Well, I was, I mean, the hit by Lemieux was obviously filthy, but I mean, that's how they were playing back then. And so you knew that something was coming. And then I moved to Detroit, and I was working at Pass in the studio. Then the studio space was in downtown Detroit in the Channel 4 building, because the Post Newsweek, who owned Channel 4, owned Pass at the time. And so I wasn't at the arena, but I was the one, and relatively a fresh face in March of '97, doing pre and post, and I'll share this story that I made some offhanded reference to, it was the WWE all of a sudden broke out, and it wasn't necessarily well received by the people for whom I was working, and but we we have told the story 1,000 times that Mickey Redmond was on his way downstairs, because at the time they needed the analysts to come downstairs to be a part of the intermission fill, and so Mickey had to sort of see it on the monitor and then joined it after Goldberg was the play-by-play voice of the Red Wings at the time, before Ken Daniels arrived. And so Goldberg was by himself calling all of that when it was really going on, and Mick was rushing into the dressing room to talk about it sort of after the fact.
It's amazing that you came from Denver. I never put that together until right now when we were talking. So that was your first taste of Red Wings hockey, was that rivalry with Colorado here in Detroit?
Well, I'd grown up in Detroit, so obviously was a big Red Wings fan. And when I was in Grand Rapids, we obviously the Wings we were covering, but not to the degree that I was living in this town and being a part of the coverage
professionally, so, yeah. I should say.
Yeah.
So your crew over at the Red Wings, your broadcast crew, has been named the best in the league. And there's a lot of people that are absolutely in love with Ken Daniels, Mickey Redmond. And then what you guys do on the desk, you and Ozzy, are fantastic, which that's going to continue. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But what is it about your crew that's made it so special? You guys have really the chemistry, the entertainment, all of it seems to fit so well.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're thankful and humbled to be lumped in. It's Ken and Mick. I mean, Ken and Mick are the broadcast. I mean, they're top of the line, the best in the NHL, and then we're sort of filling in some holes before the game and after the game, and in between, and Ken is sensational at play-by-play, but Mickey Redmond, there goes
Dan Dickerson. Crawled. I just made Dan Dickerson crawl on the floor.
I saw his butt, and that's how I want to remember Dan Dickerson.
Yeah, that's the best way, right?
That's it. I saw his wallet as he was crawling out of the room. But Ken's sensational, but Mickey has this ability to just come through the screen. He is such a people person. everybody loves him just because of how he communicates and that Irish, twinkle in his eye. The fact that I've gotten a chance to know him, and I think people have heard on the broadcast, he's more than once has tried to talk me out of stepping away. That he kept saying Michael Jordan, came back after he retired too, and he's very, very nice and giving in that regard, because we all like each other. But it's it's a decision I made last summer during the middle of the baseball season. I just kind of saw that, where things were headed with the industry and how long I've done it, and a couple of grandkids and one more on the way. And it just it just felt like it was time, and then made the announcement right before Christmas.
I didn't know you had another one on the way. Congratulations. That's exciting.
Oh, thanks. Another girl. Apparently we don't create boys in this family. That would be a third girl, but everybody's great, and it's great being around them.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And you mentioned Mick and Ken. You get to work with some great people. How about at the desk? I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's been your favorite analyst that you've ever worked with? And you don't have to say
anybody but Chris Osgood. Anybody, take a list. I mean, it could be Dan Dickerson's backside. I would prefer to Dan Dickerson's backside than working with Chris Osgood. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, anybody else, somebody walking the concourse. Hey, you want to come up? It'd be better than, what I'm dealing with here with this knucklehead. So, yeah, I mean, he's a beauty. And as everybody knows or sensed at the time when he started, he was really nervous. And I've told this story many times. But I learned pretty early on that if I could get him to laugh in the first 30 seconds, he would settle right down. And so that was my goal, was to write something that was going to make him laugh. And that sort of, he settled down, and then he began, sort of responding and things like that. The problem with that was when we were in the studio at the time, and it would all be on a teleprompter, which is no more, but that's another story. So it would be on a teleprompter, and he would be able to read ahead and see the clever witticism that was coming, and he would start giggling like the 11-year-old that he is. And so he would start laughing before I could deliver the line, which would make me start laughing, and then I couldn't deliver the line, which just made me angry, because he had ruined the punchline because he was already laughing at it before I could get it out. So,
can you tell me one thing about Ozzy? Every time I see him when he's not on air, he's on the phone. Who is he talking to all the time?
I don't know. I mean, it's you're not the only person to recognize that. I think there is something missing in his life. Anytime he's driving or walking, he has to be talking to somebody. And there's probably, I don't know, there's probably a list of 20 of us, and I think he just goes down the list. And if he calls and I don't answer and I call him right back, well, it goes to voicemail, because he's already moved on to the next poor slug that's on the list. And it's always with the corded earphones, earbuds that almost no one wears anymore, but the long string. And I keep saying, it's like they've got these wireless things that you'd probably be interested in. I keep losing them. The kids keep taking them all. And so anyway, if you see him, he's always talking to somebody, and he's always got the earbuds in.
That's amazing. And the bit with him wearing your face on whatever it is, his ties, his shirts, his this, his that. I don't know if I remember the first game. I was trying to rack my brain about this leading up to the taping of this podcast. What was the first game? Do you remember it?
I don't remember the first game. I mean, and he, oddly, he had just sort of shown up to the set and just kept turning his back. He had a coat on for the longest time, and then had his back turned as we're getting set. And usually that's when we're going to talk about this and that and this and that. But he wouldn't turn and look at me until right before we started. And then I could see the necktie. And I'm not sure which one was first, but they're all god awful. I mean, just, and so, and so that became, he wore one, and I thought, all right, well, that's cute. And then he had another one, and then another one. And then, I decided, and then I got a picture of him wearing a necktie with my face on it, and I put him on my tie and was wearing that. And of course, we had to ramp that up, and then that led to, with help from the Red Wings, promotions people, that led to putting a bad picture of Ozzy on the scoreboard at Comerica Park and on the signage outside the Little Caesars Arena. Ultimately, it went on to the scoreboard at Joker Marchant Stadium in Lakeland. And then when it was his birthday a couple of years ago, his wife had shared with me a picture of him with a pacifier in his mouth, that apparently he was, at the time, trying to get his kids to learn how to fall asleep with a pacifier, and then he fell asleep with a pacifier. So I had that picture, and so that's the one that went on, with some help from people I know, onto the billboards, 5 billboards around town, and onto the top of the Greektown Casino, and then also on the top of or at the Fox Theater as well. And so that was the birthday, get back that we had, and then they were able to put those images on the ice at Little Caesars Arena, kind of spinning head on the jewel skin. So it's been I got a little something planned for the last home game, and we'll see if it arrives in time.
Ooh, that's a tease. I've never seen a tease.
I know.
Yeah, everyone's going to be tuning in now.
I know. We'll see if it arrives in time. I've got fingers crossed, but we'll see if it arrives in time. So you'll want to be watching the last home game of the regular season.
John, I'm sure you've been asked this question a million times, and probably more so in the past few months leading up to this, but you've experienced some incredible Detroit sports moments through your time here. Do you have a favorite? What is your favorite?
Oh, geez. I mean, there's probably a top 10 list of them, Daniela. For me, the last game at Tiger Stadium was up there. I thought, that was emotional. And the fact that I got to know Ernie Harwell when I moved to Detroit, because I grew up as a kid like lots of Michiganders did, and Ernie was ever present on your radio, on the transistor radio, falling asleep at night. And so the fact that I got to know Ernie, in fact, when I learned that I was being hired from Denver, and at the time Ernie was the play-by-play voice at Pass, I thought, I can't take this job. I can't work with Ernie Harwell. He's way up here. And of course, as everybody knows, he couldn't have been, warmer and more inviting and more engaging. And the fact that I got to, get to know Ernie Harwell in his last handful of years meant a ton to me. So the closing of Tiger Stadium was up there, but the first 2 Stanley Cups for the Red Wings are up there, because it was absolute madness. It was long before social media, and everybody in Michigan had bought in, and so it was so cool to see that. And then sort of following that, and then of course the 2002 team might have been the best hockey team ever assembled in the NHL, and then they won it in 08. But following that, the Tigers setting almost the record for the most losses in a season, and then 3 years later they were in the World Series. I mean, and so and we've gone through it with the Lions as well. When a franchise has been down for a long time, and then you see the huge rush coming back to celebrate that, those are the moments that that have stuck with me the longest. Just how glad everybody is to be able to root for the team and delight in success, and the pride everybody feels in our Detroit sports teams.
Well, thankfully for the entire city, we're not completely getting rid of you, because you and Ozzy started a podcast, which it's
not my best call. It's not my best decision. Right. I've made some curious decisions in my life. This one is some of them have been attached maybe to a gin and tonic. This is not my best decision. But we've started a podcast. And I think it's not all hockey centric. It's mostly hockey centric because of the lunkhead that I work with. But we've been blessed to have a delightful chain of guests to start us. Mickey Redmond was first, and then Chris Chelios, and then it was Mike Tirico, and the next one is Jeff Daniels, and then Doc Emmerich has been on with us, and so we've mostly it's he and I giving each other grief for about 20 minutes, and then we invite the guest in. and it seems to be something that people have enjoyed, and it's just taken off from here.
Yes, and they will continue to enjoy. That's amazing. I've listened to a couple of them so far, and you guys are epic to listen to. So I'm glad that we will still have that. Last question for you, Keats. What's your message to the Detroit sports fans that have followed your career?
Why do you want to make me cry, Daniella? I mean,
that's right. I'm good with the tears. I'm good at this. Here comes Dan Dickerson to lighten the mood, I think. Is that him? No, not. Oh, it is him.
What?
I was about to make John cry, and now you're gonna walk in.
Yeah.
It lightens the mood.
I mean, now that I've finished my tribute to Dan Dickerson,
okay.
Dan wants
to
I know, but getting to know Dan, and Dan knows the story. I just told Dan the story of getting to know Ernie Harwell and how much it meant to me to get to know him, and it's a path that you walk down at the same time. But the fans have been great. I mean, it's all about. I guess you lose sight of how much people invest in the teams and in the broadcast. And when somebody walks by and tells you that they really enjoy what you do and how you do it, and the exchanges I have with Chris Osgood, and it means a lot, and it's a good reminder that when I'm sort of battling my way through a half-hour pregame or postgame show, there are people that are tuned in and fully invested, and it means the world and has meant the world. And when you go through a tough stretch, when it's a lot of games in a row, and Daniella, you're going to learn this.
Learning already.
Day after day, and it's Tuesday, and where are we today? What hotel room am I in? I can't remember. Those kinds of things, and someone will stop you as you're walking into the arena or to the ballpark and just say, "John, you got a great job." And it's a reminder that yeah, I mean, it's and I learned this from Ernie, and Dan will appreciate this. He said to me, and this was when the Tigers were really bad. Ernie said to me, "John, we get to go to a ball game every day."
Yeah.
And the fact that somebody will pay you to go to a ball game, that's as good as it gets. We're stealing. And because I had asked Ernie at his age at the time, "How long do you want to do this, Ernie? How can you keep going?" "John, we get to go to a ball game every day." And so I've had that conversation with myself many times. Just sort of the reminder that this is a pretty good gig, and it's a really good run that I've been blessed to have.
Well, you got an amazing Tigers run at the end of the year last year to send you off. Let's hope the Red Wings can do this for you too, John. If for any other reason, it's for John.
I had that conversation with Dylan Larkin at the beginning of the season, and it's just like nothing less than the Stanley Cup is going to suffice for the last run. And I said, look, there is no bigger Red Wing fan than my wife, because we've been living apart for a good long while now. She wants this run to go as long as it can, because that will extend the time before she has to see me every damn day.
Oh, so we're going to have to do a check-in, maybe with her, about how that's going.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A welfare check. Yeah.
Well, thank you, John. We appreciate you taking the time to join us, and congratulations. We're all so excited for your next chapter, and you will be missed.
All right. Thanks, Daniella. My pleasure. And everybody watch the last home game to see if the gift arrived.
I'm going to it's not a tie. It's probably not a tie. I don't know. I'm gonna rack my brain about it. Don't give it away. Don't give it away.
I can't tell you. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you.
I just want to add, just because I know you saw my little message the other night, but truly, what a great career. It's been so fun to share it with you going back to the 1980s, but you're a pro's pro. You're so good at what you do, and I'll miss seeing you around.
Thanks. I mean, you and I mean, our roots go back to Grand Rapids 1,000 years ago. And you're working in radio, and I was just the radio and then TV a little bit. And the fact that we ended up bumping into each other in Detroit many, many years ago is just really cool. Just really cool.
Very cool.